Our guest for today's episode is Ivy Mukherjee. She is a product design lead and has previously worked at Grofers, Ola, Shopify Canada, and Grab Singapore. She is also the co-creator of Indians Who Design. I am Mayank Khandelwal and you are listening to Whiteboard.fm. Hey Ivy, welcome to Whiteboard.fm. It's great that we're finally starting off with season 3. So let's get started with the interview. Can you introduce yourself and introduce yourself to everyone that's out there?
Yeah, sure. And thank you everyone for having me. I'm Ivy. My full name is Ivy Mukherjee. Just sounds very awkward, but yeah. So I am a digital product designer. Have been in the industry for over 5 years now. Bit about myself. I love to discuss obviously about different aspects of design, different aspects of the ecosystem, how things work, which kind of products I'm interested in, etc., etc. Plus, I have a knack for food. I think I love food. I love different cultures. I travel for food. So that's in a nutshell is me. Yeah.
Awesome. So Ivy, how did you get started in design? Because you're one of the senior designers for at least for all of us beginners, right? So during your age when you were starting off, what got you into design?
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting story, to be honest. So I don't have any that kind of a story where I always wanted to be designer, because to be honest, I didn't even know that kind of a field existed. So if I just go back in time, so back in my school days, I was I taken up like the science stream, like you have physics, chemistry, biology, etc. And I was supposed to study something with economics, and I got myself admitted to it. And what happened is, all of a sudden, my dad actually saw this news that St. Xavier's College has this program called BMM, which is like Bachelor's in Multimedia. He didn't know much about what exactly multimedia was, or neither I had any clue about it. But it was like, hey, I was that kid who always loved to draw. I used to draw a lot, paint a lot. So it's kind of like, he was like, why don't you give it a shot and just see what exactly it is, because it sounds kind of fascinating and it was very new to all of us. So I'm just very grateful that I got that chance. So yeah, I gave the interview, I gave the apti test and everything, and I got through it. And I'm like, oh, okay. So it was a bit of an haphazard thing, but I ended up in that course. So for 4 years, I was learning everything, almost like 2D animation, 3D animations, graphic design, history of animation, and all sorts of things. But to be honest, I really didn't feel like doing a lot of the things which were taught there. I still have this problem that if I don't like something, I just can't tell myself to do it. uh, so it was a bit hard for me to, just because I couldn't like animation. I just couldn't like 3D, etc. at that point in time. And all I used to do is like hand sketches or illustrations in a very traditional medium. So that's how I actually got into the design school, and around third year or something. And I thought, like, back then advertising or agency life was like a thing, right? That was the only thing which I at least knew, right? I didn't know about NID or IDC, IITs, etc., all of that back then. And I'm like, hey, I know I want to give it a try in the advertising agency, because graphic design, although I wasn't doing much in the digital field at all. But however, I just landed up in this international agency in Bangalore called Low Lintus. They have changed to some other name, I think. But I was doing the internship, and then I realized, oh my god, I have to learn so much about digital things, because traditional medium takes a lot amount of time, etc. But
Right.
yeah, I was just doing a lot of those things. And even after graduating, I was working with agencies. I was working with NGOs. I was just trying to find something which I find fruitful and which I could make sense of. But I just couldn't think that I was good at my job because, I just didn't like what I was doing. I was like, you know, I was just going to the office and I'm like, oh my God, I still don't know. So 2014, I graduated. For 1 year, I did it. Like different kind of jobs, like different kind of agency jobs, graphic design, NGOs works, etc., illustrations, all of that, and just couldn't find myself just doing it forever. So and just because I was trying a lot of different things, there's this one fellowship in Jerusalem, Israel, which I applied for out of nowhere because I just saw the term that design or etc., all of that. So I just applied there, got through with full scholarship, which is like, okay, this is pretty interesting. I don't know a lot of things over here, but maybe I can just try it out. So I went there in a different country all by myself for the first time for 3.5 months. And that's when I actually got to know the terms like UI or UX or just product design or just the startup ecosystem, all of that, because Israel has a really good ecosystem of that, right? So and that's when I just realized that while doing all of those things, that I kind of enjoy doing it. And but I don't know much about UI UX. So what I tried to do from there is that I started applying to few of these interesting startups in India, like housing was one of that, Grofers was one of that, etc. So Grofers actually happened, and the way I could sell them is because I knew the graphic design part or visual design aspect of it, right? So I was their first visual designer in the product team. So that's how I actually, entered. And while, because I just wanted to see that, I kind of enjoy doing this and I want to learn more about it, but I just can't sell them on UI UX right now or product design right now, right? But I can just be there and learn from them. So which I did from Grofers. Like I really enjoyed my time over there, learned a shit ton of things from there. And then with time, with like over almost a year, I just understood that I would love to be in product design, because I just felt that this is the thing which actually I could see that I was creating value and I was creating impact, and I was getting satisfied by the work which I was doing, because I could see that what exactly I'm trying to do, how exactly it can create some value or impact. um, and I was getting recognition, because who doesn't like that? So it's like, okay, I'm busy with in my job, and I want to learn more about this thing, so let's just carry it forward. So that's from Grofers, actually it started somehow. So Ola, then I joined Ola, because I just thought that okay, I learned a bit over from here and I want to learn more, and let's go for a bigger company. And back then I was having a dilemma, that should I do a master's, or should I just go for a company, like which where I can have some much more mentorship, where I can learn more as well being in the job. And to be honest, back then it was like, right now I sound very calculated. It was not such a calculated choice. It was just that I was I was emailing, and I was cold emailing a lot of people whom I looked up to, and one of them were like Sunit Singh, who was heading Ola Cabs back then, and he was heading Clear Trip as well. So Sunit was like, "Hey, why do you want to go for a master's? You can come work with me." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So that actually sounded fascinating for me. So I talked to him, and I interviewed with him, and that's how I actually ended up in Ola. So yeah, so that's my first job as a product designer. And like, one of the best teams, one of the best projects I have ever worked on till now. So I worked in the drivers and merchant side, the performance management ecosystem. We launched the first rewards system in the transportation ecosystem. So that was like huge. And from that, actually, I was I was loving my job, to be honest. I didn't have any kind of complaint. uh, and I never really actually applied to my next job, but Shopify just happened. So after that, basically Shopify happened. One basically fine evening, I got an email from their recruiter. Is like, hey, somebody just referred you from internally or something, and would you like to interview with us? And I always had this feeling, like when people talk about, oh, this is a really UX matured company, or like they have a really good design culture, etc., and they're like international company, and Shopify is one of them. And that's why I actually wanted to interview with them and just see like how it goes, because I was really enjoying my job, and I'm like, okay, let's see. So by doing that let's see part, it just happened. Okay. And I'm like, oh, okay. And now, and that's when basically the international story started. So I went to Canada. I was with Shopify headquarter, and I was working with two teams from over there. One of them is the analytics and insights part, a bit of the design systems, which is Shopify Polaris. Learned a lot about actually how systems work. We can go in depth afterwards. But yeah, Shopify happened. Then, yeah, for various personal reasons, I had to move back from there, and I was with Grab actually. I'm not with Grab anymore because I'm again switching countries right now. So I'll be doing it in 1 week most likely. Fingers crossed. But yeah, that's kind of like the what the journey has been. It has been a roller coaster ride, but yeah, I learned a lot through it, to think about it. Yeah.
It sounds like a great ride though, because like there's so much going on. It feels like you've never settled. It's like you don't want to settle. You're just gonna keep pushing it and just, yeah, going out there and like killing it. So, and it all started with that point when you went to Jerusalem, right? So how
Mhm.
old were you when you went to Jerusalem?
That's a good question. Okay, I was 22 when I went to Jerusalem.
That's great. Like,
People go to Europe. Yeah, people go to Europe. People go to US. I went to Israel.
still, like at 22, going to Israel on a design scholarship, and how was that? How did you like? What was your way of mentality wise and also process wise? In what way did you shoot your shot for going to Jerusalem?
Hmm.
Because as like at that age, when you're so young, like there as one mindset is that okay, you can be a risk taker since you've got nothing to lose, but another
Hmm.
mindset is also that what if it doesn't work? Like you have that hesitancy or like you have that fear. So what was going on through your mind and how did you go for it?
Mm-mm. No, that's a great question actually, Mike, and thank you for asking. So few things, right? As I was saying, like it wasn't so calculated back then. One thing was sure is that I wasn't enjoying my previous jobs that much. I couldn't find value that what I was doing, and that's why I couldn't give my 100%. So it's basically a two-way thing, right? It's never one way, a transactional way. Like you have to, feel satisfied to add value to the company, and vice versa, right? It was
Right.
not happening, and I wasn't feeling satisfied. So what happened is one of my favorite artists, Raghava KK. So he actually posted about this opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay. So I went through that whole, agenda, the whole curriculum, like how it looked like, etc. So it was not too much about design. It was a lot about technology. It was a lot about biotechnology. It was a lot about, you know, uh, cybersecurity, because Israel is very famous for that, AI, etc. Uh, to be honest, I didn't have any clue about it. I literally had to Google what exactly AI email meant at that point in time, right? But I just felt like applying because there was this part like, designers as well. Although, I just, and another point would be like, why the risk? Because I'm like, okay, what what's the worst can happen? They will reject me, right? So that's the worst that can happen, right? And yeah, I had to write a cover letter. I had to write my story, and why exactly I wanted to be there. right? And yeah, I remember like I just did it by myself. It was not even like, okay, hey, can you proofread this for me? Is it like, what exactly they're looking for, etc. It wasn't like that. So I did it, and I got like, pre-selected, and then I had an interview with their HOD, or like actually the program HOD, right? And I was the only designer. I was the only female also in the cohort, and the cohort was of like 15, 16 people from all over the world. And I was the youngest one. So it was eye opener from a lot of perspectives, if I think about it right now, just being reflective on that journey. So and in terms of like, as you said, like I had nothing to lose, for sure, yes. And also, what I have to acknowledge is that I had that kind of a economic privilege from my parents' side, where like, even if like everything was like in scholarship, my uh, tuition from to my food and lodging, etc. But you know you need some form of money to be
Right.
there and just be secured there. So yeah, I have to acknowledge the fact that I had that privilege to just be there. And I'm like, and my parents couldn't understand, to be honest, that what exactly it was for. But I'm like, okay, I just want to explore this thing, that what exactly it is. And back then, to be honest, I was like, oh, I get to go outside India. But it was scary as well, to be honest, because I didn't know a lot of things. I didn't like. I had to just think about, hey, where the drop, where they will come to actually pick me up, where they will drop me, etc. All of this logistics thing. So, and I went there, and there was like, different kind of people, like a lot of people from Israel, a lot of people from UK, some from China, some from US, some from the other parts of the whole world came around. And everybody were different, like there were two doctors, there were engineers, there were other like entrepreneurs, right? And like they already had achieved so much, because I was just a student out of college. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's there. But uh I actually learned different things over there, like on a very surface level. But it was very interesting. Some obviously, like it was. I can't say that I enjoyed everything, but yeah, that experience was an eye opener for me. And if you ask me how one should approach this kind of programs, it's more about what you want to do. Like, if you have that much of clarity, for sure, just go for it. Or I would just say, even if you don't have that much of clarity, like just give it a shot. I mean, the worst that can happen is that they will reject you. And it's okay, right? Like it's if it's not like your only dream, it's, yeah, you're gonna live by it. So but that's when I just realized that that realization was very necessary. And I think that was a pivotal point for me, that I realized that, okay, there is this whole segment of product companies, tech ecosystem, all of those things are happening. And maybe I'd love to just see how it works, because every weekend we used to visit some kind of field, some kind of startups, and they used to tell their stories, that how they started their journey, etc. And what exactly the product is all about. And that was fascinating, right? So, and that's how I was like, oh, okay. And that's when actually the tech scene was booming in India, like with housing and everything was happening back then. And I'm like, oh, this can be a good time actually just to explore. And I think, obviously I was lucky, obviously, for sure, that I could get into the ecosystem back then. Yeah. So this is back in 2015. Yeah.
Yeah. Ivy, what I really like about your journey and admire is that you've taken exploration really seriously. Like you've explored the Indian ecosystem, you've explored the design culture abroad. And I wanted to ask some key differences. Like one
Mm-hmm.
is what should someone be prepared of beforehand when they're considering applying internationally? And what are there any nuances between the hiring culture in India and abroad? And if they are, what are they?
Yeah. Yeah. So I can only answer this question from my perspective, which is, like the last time I worked in India is back in 2017 mid. So I can talk about my experiences back from that point. So it might have changed, right? So what I realized in terms of the hiring process, and okay, just FYI, all the places where I have worked till now have been reference based. So I never really applied, so it's kind of like, so what I believe in with time, uh, I grew my network. I grew my network organically, and I didn't know that, back then, that it would be so important. But now I just tell everyone that, having a network, having a pool of people whom you can trust and whom you can look up to, uh, is very important, because yeah, they can actually open a lot of doors for you. So what happened is, basically, as I was telling, like the whole difference between the hiring process, if I just start thinking about it, is how do I, so it's basically ad hoc versus processed and organic, right? And and most like, for a place like Shopify or for a place like Grab, where they have like, so Grab has like over 150 designers, right? And Shopify has like over 400, 450 designers in the whole team. So that's huge, right?
Yeah.
So most of them, they basically know why they want to hire one person and how you can fit in, right? And when I say that, like, this only happens when you have some form of experience, right? Suppose you have experiences in transportation, right? Or like rewards ecosystem or something like that. So if they see this kind of like particular skill sets or particular domain experiences are there, and they require some sort of those things, so they reach out to you. But generally, what I would suggest, or like, how the hiring process would go, like obviously having a portfolio helps, because and uh, not just having a portfolio, but actually having a voice in the ecosystem, like having a voice in the social media, uh, be it LinkedIn, be it Twitter, be it Dribble, anywhere, like, and if you actually think about these companies and the recruiters which work in these companies, they actually have their eyes on every media that is working. Even now in Instagram, like, a lot of people are putting really good content over there. So just try to be vocal about, or about your existence as well, that you, as a designer, as a human being, you exist, and this is how you are participating in the ecosystem. So that is very important. That's what they actually look for sure. And once you have been discovered by them, that's when the portfolio things come across, right? Or maybe, like, you have put some kind of content which is fascinating. It is about design, it is about behavior, anything related to design or etc. That, like, so you basically have to be discoverable by them. Having said that, so this is my personal opinion, but I would say, like, don't push content just for the sake of it. Push the content which you really believe in, which you have an opinion about. So obviously, so having a portfolio helps. And if you just talk about the hiring process, it's kind of like, it's straightforward in a way. Like, you will have a chat with the recruiter, and it's nothing to be prepared for. Like, they will ask you anything and everything about your life, kind of like that. I remember I told them that, hey, I love food. And they were like, oh, what's your favorite street food? And I'm like, hey, this is Golgappa. And they're like, oh, but if I have to make Golgappa at home, how do I do it? And I'm like, oh, that's fascinating. So they basically want to know you, don't say something you like to impress them. Say you like something because you like something, right? So, and I've always thought that, nobody gets rejected after a recruiter call. But after being in that company, I just realized a lot of people actually gets rejected after a recruiter call. So they actually take it very seriously. So you do that, personal story kind of a thing where they somehow try to learn about you, why you got into design, what's your aspirations, why maybe this X company, etc., right? And then you talk, then once this round is over, you basically talk to the hiring manager or one of the senior designers from the team or from the company itself, where they deep dive into your portfolio, right? Portfolio as in one or two of your projects, and you can select it. So they basically will go through the whole project, and they will ask you questions. You have to present it, right? So know every why and what you did, etc. And obviously you'll be asked that, how do you collaborate, all of that things. We talk about collaboration and being empathetic a lot, but just be very, in your senses that they will ask you, how do you collaborate? So suppose I'll give an example that one question which comes up often in a hiring manager interview is that, so if you have a conflict, how do you solve it? This question is very tricky in a way that you don't obviously always need to say you solved it, because I actually wrote it on Twitter as well on one day that a lot of the people I hear saying that, oh, we solved it, we solved the conflict in this way, we solved this way. 100% of the time, you don't solve the conflict. That's not the point. The point is how actually the product shipped for the betterment of the user, because that's the end goal, right? You are working in a team, so conflicts are supposed to happen. uh, you are not there to win every conflict. You are supposed to work in a very collaborative way. So if your PM is making a point which is valid, you be like, hey, yeah, that makes sense, I didn't think about it. Or the engineers or whatever, so it's collaboration and empathy are not only for your users, it's also for the teammates with whom you were working with, right? So yeah, they want to see all of those, because that's kind of like culture fit as well, because they don't want to, like, I remember Shopify used to say this very upfront, and sorry for this word, but we don't want to hire assholes, as simple as that. So so they just want to be very sure about that how you can fit into the culture, because for some companies culture matters a lot, the kind of
Right.
people they are bringing in. So portfolio round is over, so you basically that, you go through few other portfolio rounds, you go on site, and on site is basically 4 to 5 more rounds about, you'll show portfolio again to 4 or 5 people in the panel. Then you will go through some kind of exercise with other designers. Yeah, mostly that's about it, and having a round with the HR. So yeah, those are the some steps. Some companies will have a design challenge round, like take home exercise, you do it and then they talk about it. But yeah, Shopify doesn't have any of that. Grab has. So yeah, did I answer the questions correctly? Or if you have any other questions, yeah, let me know.
If anyone has any questions, we can answer them at the end. But I feel you've given a very like overall aspect of it, which I feel covers
Mm-hmm.
everything that was required. So Ivy, like you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned earlier, that your choices in terms of trying different things was not calculative. But was it the same when it came to deciding which teams do you want to work at? Or were you selective that, okay, you want to work in the performance aspect at Ola or in the growth
Mm-hmm.
aspect at Shopify? So what was your
Mm-hmm.
approach in that? Were you selective about that? And how was it?
Yeah. So for the first part of it, the calculative part, I started being calculative from Shopify. So
Okay.
Shopify was a no-brainer. I'm like, yeah, I want to go there. As simple as that. But before that, it was mostly of like, I had just one thing. Okay, first I want to get into some sort of a product company, Grofers. I learned a bit. Okay, I want to get into a bigger company, and I want to actually work as a product designer. So Ola. And then Shopify happened, like, international company, big company, UX matured company. Okay, I worked there, and the calculative move was, I want to move back to a hyper growth ecosystem, because I love to that ship and learn, basically that mantra. So you can ship more and learn more from that, and that's why Grab happened. And also because I loved working in Ola, and I loved the transportation domain, so I wanted to move back to that. So yeah, coming back to your question, how did I actually select the areas or domains I've worked in, or if I have had not? So for Ola, no, I didn't actually decide my team or my sub team. So you are supposed to basically work as a lead of a particular product when you are given a product. So I was within the driver partners team, and it was really fascinating, to be honest, because if you actually are in India, you know that most of the drivers till now are semi-literate or illiterate people. So designing an app which is actually their daily bread and butter is itself a challenging thing for me. And it was very different from what I was doing earlier. So I wanted to know more about how exactly uh, we can solve some problems of them, right? So that's how things started happening. And the more I actually started or working on that problem space, the more I loved it, like because the challenges were very different, like how we can actually put different daily metaphors, like those traffic lights which they are used to seeing every day, like red, green, yellow. What can we translate those things into our app somehow to actually show them some kind of actions they need to take, all of those. So yeah, it was very fascinating doing the user research and what exactly things meant to them. So when we designed the reward system, we put like this badges like platinum, gold, etc., all of that. And in a country like India, like they could understand that, hey, if I'm in a platinum or diamond badge, that means I'm doing good, right? So it's kind of like those kind of small things by which you are connecting some dots. So yeah, for Ola, I didn't choose it, but I just loved doing that thing, and I wanted to do more of that. So that's the thing. For Shopify, I actually chose a bit of it. uh, 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 so I worked in two teams in Shopify. So first one is the insights team, which I didn't choose, but the second team, growth, that's the one I chose, because when I was working in insights, it was mostly about numbers. It was basically like, even if your grandmother has a Shopify store, can she be able to understand the numbers which we are showing to that person? Like, if it is going up, going down, how can the store do well? All of those things. So that was pretty fascinating for me. And when the growth team was actually forming, uh, we wanted to look at different segments of growth, right? It's kind of like, how can we onboard new merchants? How can we reboard merchants who have left Shopify and want to come back? So all of that. So and it was pretty fascinating for me that that you can create two kind of impacts, like one is direct impact, one is kind of like indirect impact or whatever. So direct impact is when you are growing your revenue in a company. So growth does that like really well, like, so that's growth is for like direct impact. And indirect impact is basically like where you are saving money for the company, right? So how you can automate some systems where you don't require manual labor in the operations that much. So that's how you actually solve those problems, right? So so that was the Shopify thing. And one thing which I need to say is that I want to be product design generalist at first. So what it means is basically I want to have domain knowledges about different aspects. So right now I am really interested in fintech, for suppose saying, because I want to know more about that as that particular domain. Also because from a personal reason that I can't understand much about investment, etc., and I want to know exactly how uh, me as a user I can be like very much engaged in this kind of products, right? So that was the Shopify thing, where I wanted to work a bit on the design systems part as well, because Shopify has one of the brilliant design systems team, that is Polaris, and just wanted to see how they work. And I had a really good project with them, is that uh, how to make a sustainable um, uh, mobile header space thing. So it's a bit complicated, but yeah, it was very interesting that I could think from that aspect, and it got shipped. But for Grab, uh, I was actually interviewing for the venture team. So venture team for Grab is basically, they have different small startups whom they work for, but that didn't work out properly. So I shifted my gears toward customer support experiences. Um, so firstly, I didn't know much about it, to be honest, but then I got to know while interviewing that what exactly it is. So for the user, like before a thing is done, like like there is this process, right? Maybe you are ordering a food or ordering a cab, right? You have ordered a cab, and now you are in the cab, and for some reason the experience didn't suit you. You basically complain, right? And when you complain, uh, the assumption is that when you come to support or help center, your emotional state is not that great. So how we can mitigate that by giving you a human experience and an end-to-end experience, that why exactly that happened and what we can do for you right now. We screwed up, but for whatever reason, right? But we want to make it better for you. So how we can actually design for that. So basically designing for human behavior and those kind of psychological aspects, basically I get intrigued by that. So when I got a chance to do that, that was very fascinating. So my last project was like about drivers help center redesign. So that was pretty fascinating, that from a lot of aspects. So yeah, that's the kind of thing I think about, that if I what I can learn from this. At this point in time, personally for me, I want to learn more about different domains. I have few interests about, like I really like food tech because I'm a foodie. I want to know more about food tech. Fintech because I personally want to learn more about it. So that part of it. So just yeah, it's not like what exactly is very in the market or something, but what exactly I'm interested about. So that's how I have taken my decision so far.
Awesome. Like, yeah, there's so much that you've done. Like, it still amazes me. And what's awesome, like, what's brilliant is that with everything that you explained, you mentioned that you wanted to learn this, you wanted to learn that. And what keeps it going? Like, that the feeling and the motivation to just keep learning and keep exploring. Like, because at some point people feel that okay, we're done learning now, we just want to, like, our take percentage is reducing now, we just want to give and like earn. So what keeps you motivated to just like keep learning and as many things as possible, like different domains, and what's the end goal?
I'll give you a very um, how do I put it? I don't know the exact word of it, but maybe a selfish or maybe a very industrial answer. You should always have a growth mindset. Like we talk about it a lot. So mindset is all about you want to learn something about something, right?
Right.
Because if you stop learning, you are getting stagnant, right? And the things around you are changing in such a dramatic way that you will be failing to keep up, right? Maybe you don't need to learn a lot of things, but just learn maybe 2 or 3 things very well, and and you should be able to, like, you want to make a living out of what you do at the end of the day. Like, I'm just
Correct.
guessing that's the kind of privilege we are talking about, so that, we want to make some money, we want to be satisfied with what we are doing, etc., right? So gauging the industry is obviously a bit hard, but you have to be there enough to gauge it, and that's when you keep learning new things. And also this learning thing will come from yourself. Like, you worked on something, you liked it so much that you want to know more about. Okay, you learned about X, now you want to learn about X plus Y, right? Because if you learn X plus Y, you will be able to achieve what you wanted to achieve for, like, suppose, say, for the past 2 years. So that's the kind of thing, right? And then it's all basically boils down to where I want to see myself, maybe, suppose, say, in the next 5 years. For to be there in the next 5 years, these are the steps which I need to take, right? It can be about learning different skill sets, and it's not and when I say, like, skill sets, I really want to clear about, it's not just about learning tools, right? It's not just about learning Sketch or learning Figma or learning After Effects or anything like that. Obviously, I mean, it will be that, but it's also about, like, when you actually grow more in your career, you will understand how much your communication skills matter, how much your storytelling skills matter, how much your people skills matter. And one thing which my manager, like ex-manager, used to say a lot is that, uh, you have to have persuasive skills. Like, what I mean by that, build the relationship with people, your product will be built like that anyway. So yeah, so having those kind of things really work. So, what keeps me going is basically that I want to learn something about something, because that's like, with 5-6 years of experiences, I just learned that, hey, this is really fascinating because I worked on something, right? And that's how your experiences keeps on growing. So that's when you realize that, yeah, I love doing this, maybe I can try this thing. Or maybe, sometimes I have done things which I didn't really like at the first go, but I wanted to do it because a lot of people are doing, and I'm like, hey, maybe, it's kind of like a FOMO, that kind of thing. But I tried it, and I'm like, oh, I'm not liking it. So it's basically like creating, with over time, you will be creating a personal brand for yourself. This is what Ivy Mukherjee is. This is what Ivy Mukherjee does. This is what Ivy Mukherjee is really good at. Like, so over the years, you'll be building it. And yeah, and it can be a lot of different things, right? But people will be knowing you for 2-3 things. Like, you can write, or you can speak really well, you can sell your ideas well, you can do very good motion design, uh, interaction design, all of that. You were a key person for that. So yeah, all of this will actually take time. Some people want to be a product specialist from the very beginning. So yeah, I think, like, just keep doing different things, and you will find a knack, and then you will just keep on learning because you love doing that. As simple as that.
It's a lot about compounding as well. Like, the more you compound and the more you do things that you don't like, once you do the things you
Hmm.
don't like, you know what you do want to do. And so you tend
Yeah, yeah.
to get more clarity based on how much you're exploring as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it comes back to the another point is that, being bit uncomfortable while you are doing things. If you are
Right.
too comfortable while when you are working on new things, you are maybe not learning too much, to be honest. You have to, like, there's this very small difference between having a challenging role or challenging project, like, where you stretch yourself a bit, like a bit, but obviously you are not burning yourself down, etc., all of that. But where you'll be learning something every day while you are doing it. So while you do it, you will just understand that, oh yeah, I didn't know this, yesterday, but I now know this thing. Yeah. So that's how you learn new things while doing it, obviously. And So from A to B to C, so you will just connect the dots somewhere, and where also you will, by growing your network, you will see what other people are also doing, what other people are also reading. So yeah, it's basically like, open your eyes more, talk to more people, just see that which kind of people, or which kind of designer, whatever, like, you want to be. So yeah, it's a lot about different, trying different things in the beginning. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Totally aligned. Speaking of compounding, Ivy, like since you've done so many, like you've worked in every company, you worked in a different domain, right? So,
Mhm.
are there any key learnings from every experience that you implemented in your next experience? And how has that worked out for you?
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I can talk about three things. So what I look for in every opportunity or experience, which I will be gathering, or I try to look for, right? Or so first things first, people matter the most. The people you will be working with. So that's why I say that, growing your network is really important.
Right.
So because you will be working with this set of people day in day out, and if you can't connect with them, you will not be satisfied with the job you are having. So that's one key learning for sure, that people first approach, right? Suppose even if you're working at your dream company, trust me, if you're not liking the people in your team, you won't like your job. So yeah, look for the people. It takes time for sure, because networking is not like, oh, I'll just go on Twitter or LinkedIn for 6 months and it will be done. So it's an organic process. You will have to keep on investing time in it. Second, obviously, product. Which kind of products you are interested in, right? Before Shopify, I was always like, oh, I don't know about B2B products, or I don't know about this web-based products or something, because I never really worked on it, and it didn't sound sexy, as simple as that back then. So but when I actually joined the company, and when before even joining, I was going through a lot of the like, I was researching a lot about their case studies, I was researching a lot about their people, how they do things, etc. So that was fascinating for me, right? I wanted to learn more about that. So product is that thing. Like Shopify is a really great product, like it's really well designed product, well thought out product. And also it can be about two things, right? When it's coming to product, you join a matured company to learn more about that domain in certain way, and another part is you are already interested in that domain, and you want to go into a startup and learn from scratch, like moving a product from 0 to 1. So that's also another aspect of it. uh, for beginners, I like if I want to give any advice, I just give the first advice that you learn from other people. So if you have more people in that company, maybe they can be your mentors, and you can learn with them. And then once you have learned something, then you can move into the startup ecosystem easily. But yeah, so that's the second point, like the product, how you are interested in that. Third is obviously the kind of like personal growth or professional growth, however you want to call it, right? I want to see that if, so this is the one thing which I have learned over time from my partner, is that if I am joining a company where this people and this product has already fit in, I want to see that if I want to keep my uh, keep this company on my resume for a few years, am I okay with that? Yeah, so that's the kind of uh, judgment which I do, and which kind of growth it can bring in me, right? Because I'll have a goal. that this is what I want to learn, and I would like to talk to the hiring manager, that I want to also interview him in a way, him or her, right? That how do you actually guys do this, or invest in the growth of the designers, of the people who are joining in, because that's really important for me, because it's never a one-way process, like it's a two-way process. I'm giving them something, they are giving me something, right? So if I want to be, suppose say if I want to be a design manager in maybe suppose say 2 or 3 years from now, and that's one of the goals for me, uh, how can we achieve it together? Because my manager or like other people in the team has also be involved in that. So those three things are like, people, product, and professional growth are really important for me to actually uh, check that, where I want to do. And these are the key learning experiences what I've gathered from this whole um, years. Now also, like, respect other people, being humble, and like we talk about a lot of buzzwords, we use a lot of jargons, but it's just all boils down to, um, can you actually go there and pursue this person to actually, suppose if you're talking to a business strategy owner, can you actually tell him that, yeah, this thing works or not, like, uh, and you have to go there and actually sell your idea that, yeah, this will work because of this. And maybe, like, you just have to be hopeful that, you make your case as strong as possible by gathering data, by gathering the research insights, all of that. But yeah, just be humble, I think. Talk to people, like whom you look up to, network as much as you can. uh, put in the hard work. There is no other way around, for sure. So yeah, and yeah, things will happen for sure.
Yeah, these summed up a lot of future questions also, which I was going to ask about what
Yeah.
would are your key takeaways, and what advice would you give to someone who's beginning or wants to get into design?
Mm-hmm.
Which is great. Like, this summed up all of that. Now, Ivy,
Mm-hmm.
with as you're growing as a designer, and if you're working in a company, like you mentioned, if you have to decide if you want to add that company in your resume for like 4 or 5 years, when do you realize that it's time to let go and move on to and level up?
Mm. Yeah. So yeah. So generally, when one first point would be like, you have, maybe suppose you're working in a company, like, I'm just talking from my personal experience what has happened, like, you're working in a company and you have worked on different domains of that product. You have shipped a lot of features, products, etc. And uh, at one time, like, you are really happy at your job. You are doing the job well, the people well, etc. The projects are going really fine, but it's just that you were comfortable, right? That's what it means. So you are obviously growing, but sometimes for me it felt like, if it felt like saturated, like, I won't be learning too much after this. I will be
Right.
learning for sure, but it's not like jumping from here to here, right? So because once a product has been established, uh, the kind of growth will be different, like, right, from 0 to 1 is a different stretch, from 1 to 2, 2 to 3 is a different stretch, right? So that's the kind of thing which I look for. So uh, when when I know I'm too comfortable, or when I know a lot about that particular feature, particular product, etc., and then I want to see that what else, right? What else I can do, or I can provide to the team, and how I can grow my skill sets, right? So those are the two things. And if I see that, not much are happening, right, and how much ever I do, it won't be again satisfying to me. So that's when I actually look for another opportunity. And it's not just getting another job, it's basically like, again, seeing which are the kind of product, which are the kind of people I want to work with to learn this XYZ thing. So always basically know that what you want to learn, right? Because at every stage, at every maybe year, at every company, you will be learning different things, and you will be fascinated with the kind of learnings which you have. And it's not always like it's it's not a bed of roses that you are always every day we're going and like, oh, I learned this and that, blah blah blah. But
Yeah.
it will, I mean, if you want to keep a positive attitude toward it, you will see that you are learning actually every day. And yeah, that's, I mean, mostly it's about that. When I feel that my skills will be saturated within this particular product after a certain point in time, that's when I know that, hey, time to move on.
Yeah, that's a very pragmatic approach. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's something which even I wanted to know about it. So yeah.
Yeah.
So Ivy, can you tell us more about can you tell us about Indians who design and what are the future plans for Indians who design?
Oh, nice. Yeah. So Indians who design is basically uh, it's a living directory of uh, Indians in the design industry, right? So basically, how it I'll just tell you like very briefly how it started. So back in Canada, I was like, so all this women who design, Latinx who design, everything was going on, and I'm like, hey, there are really good designers in India, and we can create a directory for these designers, how much ever we can actually do it, right? And I approached one of my friend Sashank from Flipkart, and I'm like, hey, I was thinking of something about like this. What do you think? And yeah, he came on board with one of his friend Zishan, who was the developer who is for IWD, Indians Who Design. So that's how it actually started. Just basically create a place where people can go and look up to, these are the Indian designers who and these are what they are doing. So that was the basic motive of starting IWD. It basically blew up when we launched, and I'm like, oh my god, didn't really expected it. But yeah, it's great to see it that way. And yeah, we had really good responses that that people actually looked up to these designers. Some people actually got mentors, etc., all of that. And the future, yeah, we are working on some plans right now. I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about it, but yeah, we are trying to diversify the platform much more, trying to see if we can have much more like more learning sessions, if that can happen, etc. So yeah, few things are online, and we want to see how we can grow Indians who design, and make it a platform uh, where companies also can learn from it, or companies also can maybe hire from this platform, which people
Correct.
are doing. And also like junior designers can look up to senior designers, or maybe senior designers can look up to the managers, etc. So it can be a really good platform to just basically, again, network, again, look up to people whom you want to be with, or you want to be like, or something, or you want to learn more about them, etc. So yeah, it's kind of like a discovery platform in a lot of sense.
Which
Yeah.
could be scaled up to something bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are planning something. We should be launching soon, maybe sometime with something. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. So Ivy, one final question.
Mhm.
What are your views on the design industry overall in terms of, is it getting saturated? Is it getting more competitive for beginners to get into product design? What are your views?
Yeah, that's interesting actually. But saturated, I won't say so. It's it's competition. Yeah, there's obviously a lot of competition right now, because a lot of people are actually going into design schools or not going to design schools, self-taught designers, etc. People want to learn more about design, etc. But like this thing I tell myself as well every day, that uh, don't have that imposter syndrome or anything like that. You just do your job, and your job is basically to uh, make sure that why do you want to come to design, be it any kind of design, right? It can be graphic design, it can be illustration, it can be digital product design, it can be like anything over there. So if you are really interested about that field, um, you will find a path. And obviously, again, like uh, reach out to people, I've reached out to a lot of people. I still reach out to a lot of people. Some people don't respond, but it's okay. Okay, just let me just tell you, it's okay.
Right.
People are busy, so it's fine. But if you really want to, like, this is how at least I approach. I'm not sure how much I know I am successful in doing that, but whenever you are approaching some people, like, or you look up to, just tell them what exactly you are looking for, right? So that helps for sure. And yeah, I mean, you'll be reaching out to 100 200 people, some 10 20 people will respond to you, but yeah, you will grow. So do that, work on your portfolio, and try to get real experiences, right? I know it's hard, but there are a lot of opportunities these days, like maybe hackathons, maybe online some kind of competition, maybe something or the other, internships, right? So that's when, if you connect that network or people dot with everything, it will come to it. Like, if some 5 to 6 people know that this X person did it did this the job or did this project, they'll be like, hey, we were thinking something like this. And trust me, it happens. Like, people actually come back to you when you put in the hard work, when they have seen something interesting, right? So keep doing the job, keep learning new skills, keep actually documenting those, and share it across to get other views, get other opinions, etc. So yeah, basically that. And yeah, I mean, I think it'll be good. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Ivy. This was a great interview, at least for me. Like, I would love to know what you think. And yeah, I wanted, like, what do you think? How was your experience?
Oh no, it was great actually. Yeah, I mean, I mean, I always love talking about design. I think, like, different aspects of it. Sometimes it might be very opinionative or something, but yeah, it's just that, like, it's all my experiences, so I just can't tell people that this is the way it has to be, but this is the way it has been for me.
Right.
So you have to try and test it for yourself. So you will do a lot of things, some things will work, a lot of things will not work. So, but don't worry, something will happen for sure. But just keep on doing the things. Like, consistency is for sure is the key, like, for everything you do. You will see a lot of great designers, we all see every day. I'm like, oh my god, how did this person do it like this? And I'm like, oh. But you just have to do it every day, put the hard work, show up every day. So that's really really important, and people love that. Trust me, people love positive attitude. So even if you don't know something, tell them that you don't know. Like, a lot of people don't know a lot of things, so not knowing is not a problem, but not telling them that you don't know is gonna hurt you. So yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for listening to this episode, and I hope you liked it. If you watched the entire video, drop a comment below sharing your favorite learnings from this interview to let us know. Subscribe to the Whiteboard.fm YouTube channel to check out other episodes and clips from this interview. This podcast is a part of the 10K Designers Network. You can check out other projects on 10kdesigners.com.